My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates and new core students and anyone interested in surviving as a Pilates instructor. 7 titles today. I got some good feedback from a student, and we talked about being in tune, and that's a good way to say it because it's vibration and it's frequency and it's harmonics and my point would be, in recognizing the tune, see the tune for what it is and recognize it would still be what it is no matter who plays the tune. So take it from me freely and pass it on freely. Number 2, study the mat sequence. Study the mat sequence. Joe's mat, the order of the sequence. Study that. Experience that in your body. And then, of course, because you're on the fast track and you're listening to a clarification of a point of view of Pilates, there are thousands. This one takes an ideal point of view. And so, in knowing that the definition of the ideal from this point of view is uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement, you know, as you work through the mat, either intellectually as you considering what happens in light of the definition, see if it makes sense to you. And ideally it does make some sense, and what you're looking for is a deeper sense of it, of the mat itself, of doing the exercises, of the feel of moving from one position of loading to the next. You know, how your body gets heavier as you go through the sequence. So study the mat sequence. Not just the performance of it, but the understanding of it through the point of view of the ideal. And I'm pretty sure that the point of view I've been professing for the last 30-some years has been consistent. It points to the existence of core new tension in the body, which is oppositional rotation between axes. 4 words, that's the definition, right? And that makes me want to jump to number 4, not having talked about number 3. But if you're new, welcome. And I wish my language was your language, and I wish I spoke my language better, no matter what language you speak, so that it could be clearer what I'm trying to say. But I just went by the definition of core new tension. 4 words. Oppositional rotation between axes. That's core new tension. And in terms of your new what's to know, well, really basically, if you just wanted to grab onto the 5 key definitions that I have to offer you, 3 of them aren't even mine, they're Joe's, right? And then 2 of them are mine. But the 3 from Joe's are his definition. Contrology is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. In the very next paragraph, he makes a promise that contrology develops the body uniformly. Maybe it's just a statement on how it happens. I was always taking the end product to be the target of a uniformly developed body, but Joe's words say something else, or something different slightly. He says contrology develops the body uniformly, and that's like how it happens, not what you end up with, right? And so what you end up with is a result of how it happens. And that's the second thing, is Joe's promise that contrology develops the body uniformly. And then the third thing is the sequence, and that was already number 2, is study the sequence of the mat. Because there is only one of those, according to Joe, from his book, Return to Life Through Contrology, and whatever additions or deletions or alterations you know the mat as, I'm recommending that you really know Joe's mat, his exercises, his order, right? And so if you're new to the broadcast, to Michael Miller Pilates and to core new tension, there's 5 things, 5 definitions to memorize that will really put you on a strong foundation as you continue to absorb the point of view. And those 3 are from Joe, 2 are from me. Joe's definition, Joe's promise, and Joe's sequence. The definition of core new tension, and the definition of Michael Miller Pilates. And Michael Miller Pilates is a brand of Pilates, and it's a view of Pilates. There's thousands of them. This view is unique in that it takes its view from a theory rather than a tradition. And as such, the theory applies to whatever tradition you're a part of. If indeed there's an ideal within the original work, it would be just as true through whatever school you learn from as from whatever school someone else learned from. And the great thing about ideal Pilates is it puts Pilates on a firm foundation of its own. That goes way beyond organized efforts to define it or to redefine it or to control what someone else thinks it is. So what's to know are those 5 things? My definition, the MMP definition, is uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. Uniform, because Joe says contrology develops the body uniformly. How can you be doing Pilates if you're not doing it uniformly? Eccentric, out from center, because Joe writes about controlling your core and powerhouse and moving out from there, right? Loading, because if you just look at the order of the mat, you can see how the weight of the body how the human being takes on more and more of its own weight as it moves through the sequence of exercises. As it moves through that sequence, it demonstrates repetition of pattern. Just like a song has different verses to the same music. That's my favorite comparison. The pattern of flexion, extension, side bending, rotation, and torsion repeats throughout Joe's mat and throughout the rest of his work. Consistently, to the point where it's possible for sure, and evidence of that abounds, but it's tough to ignore the obvious aspects of Pilates. So let me go back down to number 3, making karma. Making karma is about making money, and recently I've been talking about allowing a person to pay you to create a karmic connection of value. And I know here I am giving it all away, but I am making a recording that someday may become of monetary interest. The point about making karma is that when you hold yourself in a particular manner, it allows karma to embrace you in that way. It helps if you acknowledge that the information that you have is worth something. And then having a demonstration of what that means by having that worth show up before you perform. Nothing wrong with that. So make karma when you make money. And if you're new and you're absorbing all of this, believe me, you're in a very small, among a small number of people that are being exposed to the word Pilates and whatever that means to whomever is doing the presenting, right? And so that makes me want to say, know what you know. Because if you don't really stand within what you know, you're sort of hiding or embarrassed by it, it totally diminishes, in my opinion, maybe diminishes, and insults the quality of what you know, right? Let's go to number 5. Each exercise embarrasses you. I mean to say, each exercise embraces you. Any exercise you do that you've learned as a Pilates exercise, ideally you've learned the purpose, and you've learned how to pursue that purpose and be concentrated on it. And to the extent that you have an understanding of and an ability to be fully concentrated on the purpose of the exercise, I have no idea where I was going with that. And what you know. Oh. To the extent that you are aware of the purpose of the exercise and you apply your concentration to it, right? And I'll lose it again here. There we go. Each exercise embraces you. The more familiar you get with an exercise, the more it embraces you when you seek to perform it, right? Because it is what it is, ideally so in my point of view, to the point where you can actually concentrate on the purpose of it in an ideal way. And in doing so, fully embrace the mind, the thinking, and connect the mind to the sensation of the ideal you're chasing. A discernible sensation. Not just do this and yeah, I'll tell you if it's going right or not, but sending the person into their own cave alone, metaphorically speaking, to sense for themselves and to then discern and attain a deeper degree of control. So at least I'm saying I feel it that way, that when I go to do an exercise anymore, it's the exercise that embraces me, and it's me that tries to or embrace it back, because it is what it is, and I'm trying to express or perform or do the movement of the exercise. Number 6, why does the depth of your core matter? It's because if you try to control a grip on a foam roller, right, an 8-inch foam roller, it's a really long axis. Here's a long axis. Here's 2 lengths that are equal, right? But are they equal, or can you see that one is thicker than the other, rounder? And it is the size of the grip it is the depth of the grip that determines the strength of the core. And the depth of the grip I think of as how close your grip is to the axis around which it's rotating. So your hips can make this rotation, and that's rotation, but the development of the core is to take that rotation and get it into a tighter grip. And why is that? That's the question. Why does a deeper core matter? First of all, it assumes that the core is a grip at the hips, and know that the rest of the Pilates world is living in denial about the fact of that physics. So it immediately places you in an advantage if you're willing to look at and understand how the biology embraces shapes that facilitate its movement through space. At the core, a deeper core means a tighter grip. And why does a tighter grip matter? Because it gives you more control. And that's Joe's word, right? That's Joe's name of his method, contrology. And so a tighter grip gives you more control. And it's easy to demonstrate with different sized poles, like an 8-inch cylinder, or a thicker wooden pole, a thinner pole, and make your student take the grip, and you make challenge to the grip by making rotation, and then change the size so that it's one thing to say, look, a tighter grip is stronger, but the art of being a Pilates instructor is not to have to say anything, but other than like, hold on and don't let me twist this. And you make effort to twist it, and with different sized dimensions of grip, it becomes obvious that the dimension of the grip matters in how much control you have, how much power you have in your grip, how much leverage you have to make the rotation. All right, it's on my list, so I've got to do this. Well, okay. What is this? It's a rope. I call it a rope. In the boating world, you might call it a line. Okay, but it's long and it's the same compared to what is this? Well, I have to show more of it maybe. So see what this is, right? And what happens to compared to the rope, okay? The whip is tapered. And why is it tapered? I love to be in a workshop and lay the rope out long, and that gets curiosity, and then when I pull out the bullwhip and lay it along the length of the rope, just knowledge of a bullwhip draws people away from it out of concern, right? Because why? Because why? Because it hurts to get caught in a whip or be whipped. And I'm not trying to be insensitive when I say that. There's potential harm. There's something to be feared in a whip if you're on the wrong end of it. That's a good way to put it. And yet, the point between the rope and the whip is that it's tapered, and tapered to the point where there's this whole rigid part that connects to the taper. And that's where I show the whip and how it tapers just like the spine does. So the core is a grip, and the grip is on the whip of the spine. The spine has the handle and the rotational ability, the core, the powerhouse at the hips. All those words are the same. And to me, and hopefully to you, they just refer to the fact of the biology and its capability to make rotational dynamic, both at the hips and throughout the body, and that I'm so not used to demonstrating. Sorry, I'm moving around so much. From the rope to the whip to the spine, and a big group engagement, is very telling about the nature of the spine, right? How it is tapered, and how the control of the core, the grip of the hips, is the grip on that spine, on that whip. So it means a lot that I hear back from you that some of this makes sense, because I don't hear much of that, and I don't know that you'll get much acknowledgement for knowing what you know. And I'm not encouraging you to go out and try to overcome human nature and proselytize when it's pointless to do that. Because knowing what you know, the people that want what you know will come to you. There, that's a good way to end. The people that want what you know will find you. The clearer you put out what you have to offer, the results show up in the bodies that you instruct. And that will bring those that want more of that. At least that's the theory. So, life can't live forever. I hope I can capture some of this in the second broadcast in Facebook. Thank you for being here. Read between the lines in all of this, right? If you recognize the tune, it's the tune that matters, not who plays it. There you go. I do have a reason to use this. So you see that? That's a image of a cocopelli. And my life ended up being the life of a cocopelli, playing a tune about a point of view of Pilates. And don't be distracted by the pipe player, and absorb the tune so that you can sing it on your own. Read between the lines. See behind the curtain. Add 2 and 2. Make karma. That seems like such a crude thing to mix money up with karma. But there's part of that is in that, right? And facilitate others to acknowledge the value of what you know. That's what I'm encouraging you to do, because you don't really know what you know. Mm. Mm. In the conditioning, you anticipate the future. And in your presentation, I encourage you to be confident that it is that deeper than you're aware of. Oh, that sounds condescending. Goes really deep, and it goes as deep as you really wish to go. And your confidence about it can be new and puppyish in expression, but still be so connected to the point of view of the ideal that everything that you deliver is stunningly, stylishly, creatively yours, being filtered through how you view what it is that you do. Direct your thinking. Geist.